Hi, I'm Erin Marcus, former corporate executive turned entrepreneur and founder and CEO of Conquer Your Business. Welcome to the Ready Yet podcast. We're excited to bring you more than 100 episodes of interviews and insights designed to help entrepreneurs get the financial and emotional freedom they need in order to build a business and a life they're proud of. All right. Hello, and welcome to this episode of the Ready Yet podcast. My guest today told me, I read your book and I was excited to learn something I didn't know the answer to and had wondered since I think I was 10 years old. So I'm very excited to have Alexandra Watkins with me today. And before we get into what that brilliant piece of information was, because seriously, as a kid, I always wondered, tell everyone real quick who you are and what you do.
Okay, I am the founder and chief executive boss lady of a naming firm called Eat My Words. And Eat My Words started out naming things that make people fat and drunk. And we still do that, but we name a lot of different things now. But we've been in business almost 20 years. My claim to fame is that I named the Wendy's Baconator.
Love it.
And yeah, we do really fun and creative and clever names that make people smile instead of scratch their head.
I absolutely love it. And one of the things, so I work with tons of businesses, and one of the things people are always asking me, because I work with a lot of people who just left corporate and they're deciding to go into business. And this is where like everything comes to a screeching halt. Right? You see this over and over again where their efforts come to a screeching halt. So I want to jump in 85 different places, but like, why is this so hard for people? Why does it not just to come up with a good idea? I get that. That's like a skill that you have, but why do people get so hung up and stuck and trapped on this piece?
Because they never learned how to do it in school, right? No, and people don't name things very often.
True.
So they kind of, a lot of times they just will end up using their own personal name as their brand name, and they're missing tons of opportunities there, or they're just being really lazy and like adding a letter or two at the end of a word that to make a new word, or they're doing the amalgamated clusterfuck where they're just like
So true.
trying to like mash all of these things together to make a new word. But yeah, people just don't know, and they also don't know what makes a good name versus what makes the name suck. And that's really what my mission has been, to teach people how to determine if their name is strong or weak.
One of the things that I appreciate in the book that I think you're dead on about is you don't have to remove fun from everything that you do. And you're talking about financial firms and law firms, and you don't have to remove. There is a difference between whimsy that may be inappropriate and fun that is absolutely appropriate.
Yeah, or just creativity. So there's an attorney, she's a cannabis attorney. I know a number of cannabis attorneys. I don't even know this woman, but I just remember her moniker. So a moniker is where you give yourself, you're known as something, right? Yeah. So her name's Lauren Vasquez, and she is known as the fired up attorney, which is great, right? So that's fun. It makes people smile. But what I love about monikers is they're super memorable, and they make people referable. Because if you were asking me, we work with cannabis brands, and if somebody said, oh, we need a trademark attorney, or we need an attorney to help protect our brand, I would like Lauren Vasquez's name, I might not remember Lauren Vasquez, but I will remember the fired up attorney. And that's why I always encourage people, if you're not going to name your business a brand name, at least brand yourself with a moniker.
Yeah, because you can Google that just as easily, and it will, used consistently, it will totally show up. And then looking at your list of what not to do's, you can totally see like, oh, I remember when that was a total like a theme, like everybody was doing it.
Yeah.
Especially like the letters. I noticed that now it feels tricky. Like you said, if you put an I in front of something, I think you're trying to trick me into believing that you're Apple.
Yeah, I don't I mean, I think people know because their brand is so strong when something is from Apple, but I have an online course and I have lots of slides in my copycat lesson about here's all the people that are using, and I is in front of, I sauna, I grill,
At the airport, there's, at
oh,
least in
that's
Chicago,
spot.
it's called the iStore.
Yeah.
And it's all this electronic stuff, and they make you think that it's an Apple
Oh, yeah.
store, and
Okay.
it's
I see
not.
there. Yeah. Yeah. No. And it just like when people see names like that, they just roll their eyes because it's a copycat, right? And they're like,
Yes.
oh, they're just trying to copy Apple. And Apple wasn't the first to use the I, but obviously they're the ones that
We're-
really dominated with it.
Absolutely. So for coaches and consultants in particular, I'd love to get your take on this. I have my opinion, but a lot of, I think they're different programs. And when you talk about courses and programs, those also need really good names. If you're just going to say group coaching program,
Yeah,
you're
they need
missing
names.
an
So I'll give an example. So in my online course, I have coaching. So the basic course without any coaching is called, because we're Eat My Words, the basic course is called Just the Meat. The one with group coaching is called Chef's Table.
nice. Right,
And
you can have
then
fun with it.
yeah, and then the one with that's private, just one-on-one, is called Private Chef.
Love it. I mean, and
Yeah,
yeah, and you say this in your book, if you don't have a name, you're missing opportunities to create
totally.
a brand out of the words.
Yeah, another one that I love, this woman is a PR executive. Her name is Lynette Hoy, and her name said nothing about she was the fiery publicist. So we branded her Fire Talker PR with the tagline hot on the press. She calls herself the fire chief. She works in the firehouse. She has packages like fire starter and controlled burn, and she has a
Perfect.
theme song, and everyone should have a theme song. And her theme song is Fire by the Ohio Players.
Right. I mean, it's odd. Right. I mean, and it makes marketing so much easier when
Yeah.
you have this foundation that you can build around. Another thing that is included in here in your book that I love, because I call it, I think one of the mistakes people make is they don't do the work before they go to work, right? They go out into the world trying to sell their widget, but they haven't done the hard, frustrating work of ideal client avatar, like they haven't done that. And that's something that I think you called it a debrief. I forgot what you called it exactly. Your creative brief
Mhm.
to really, before you're even trying to come up with a name, what do figuring out what it is you're trying to do.
Yeah. A lot of people just start like throwing spaghetti at the wall, right? And seeing what sticks. And when you're coming up with a name, you should fill out a creative brief so you have a roadmap that says, here's who we are. This is the tone of this is the tone and personality of our brand. So we want the name to fit that. So for instance, Eat My Words, that's fun and playful. And that's the style of names that we do. If we were named Strategic Name Development, that would not say anything about the fact that we're fun and playful.
Well, and
So
it also creates a misalignment. I see this in people's branding and in their marketing and in their content. When there's a misalignment between the emotional feeling of a name and the emotional feeling of the visuals and the emotional feeling of the language, people think something's wrong. They're not, even if they don't know what, they kind of like back away slowly because they feel that it's incongruent.
yeah, no, that happens. Or yeah, brands don't live up to their name, right?
Well, that's a really good, right? Be careful what you call yourself if you're not gonna like walk your talk.
Yeah, exactly.
Love
Yeah,
it.
so important.
So some things that you mentioned to absolutely make sure you do. The memorable, there's a lot in the book about being easy to remember.
Yeah, so what makes something memorable is if it exists in our current knowledge base.
Yeah.
So an example of that is the bike lock company Kryptonite. We all know Kryptonite from Superman. Therefore, when we see or hear the name Kryptonite locks, it's easier to remember. And then it's a metaphorical name. So we know that kryptonite repels Superman. Therefore, the analogy being kryptonite repels bike thieves.
And I love the idea of going to industries or ideas that are not necessarily within your realm right now. Like I said that when I was in corporate and I was starting a department, and the CEO kept referring people to me to hire. And it was all people who had already been in the industry for a really long time, and they just didn't like what they were doing. And I'm like, I don't want someone else's old habit. I think we can learn the most from other industries.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that holds true for names. Like, what can you see that maybe you enjoy that has some words that start to trigger emotions in yourself for what you're naming?
Yeah, well, I think there are a lot of opportunities to be different instead of a copycat
Yeah.
or something that's just very expected. So, for instance, we've named a lot of law firms, and one of them specializes in working with startups and helping them with their foundational documents, and we named it Bedrock, right? And when we named it Bedrock, they started attracting the type of customers that or clients that they wanted to work with. Like, we have a cool name, we want to work with cool people. And before that, the attorney Layla Benajamali was using her own name, but she knew it was really problematic for people to spell, pronounce, remember. So that's why when you have a memorable name like Bedrock, and we all know Bedrock from the Flintstones, it's easy to remember. So that way, there's a million attorneys in San Francisco where she is, that not a million, but there's many
Probably a
attorneys
million. That could
that
very easily be a million.
there's a lot that work with startups, right? But she differentiated herself with a name, and not just a name, a cool name that would
Yeah.
make her easy to refer. And whereas Layla Benajamali, hard to refer because people aren't going to remember her name, or like, I don't know how to spell it or pronounce it. So when you have a cool name like Eat My Words, we're super easy to refer,
Yeah.
especially if there's, somebody that wants a food and beverage name, they're going to come to us. So when you have a name that's memorable, you're just giving yourself a huge advantage.
Yeah. What do you have as far as insights for people who are rebranding or want to change their business name?
I think it's never too late to change your name. We have changed the names of two companies that were more than 100 years old.
Oh, wow.
One was a bank in Kansas. It was in the middle of Kansas, and it was named First National Bank of Syracuse. So you could see the confusion there because they're in Kansas, not New York. And the name wasn't doing anything, and it just sounded like any other bank. So we rebranded them. They're a very aspirational bank that won all kinds of regional banking awards, the Bankies, and we rebranded them Dream First because
That's
they're
amazing. Now, okay.
yeah,
So, like, I just really want people to pay attention to that for a second, because where would you rather have your money? Right? We all, like, so many of these banks, they have the First National this and First Official
yeah,
of that. There's no differentiator. But that's such proof that you don't have to stay in a teeny tiny box that somebody else created.
yeah, exactly. And another one that we did is it's a large health clinics serving underserved populations in Los Angeles. And for more than 100 years, they were known as Queens Care. And they love that name, and they love the name. They just had shortened it to Queens, and everybody knew them. And the company did not want to change their name, but they were forced to change it for some type of legal situation. So they're faith based. So we explored words around faith, and we rebranded them Grace Light. It's such a pretty name, isn't it? Grace Light.
Right. And it's something that, and the other thing about all these is the emotions that they invoke. And you just, I mean, if you get everything else wrong, I think that's the piece that has to be right.
Yes, you're exactly right. And in my name evaluation test, the smile and scratch test, the smile is an acronym for the 5 qualities that make a name great, and scratch is the flip side of that. But the E in smile stands for emotional, and your name has to make an emotional connection. It has to connect with people. And I recently went to this very large trade show. 100,000 people go to
Oh,
this show. It's called Expo West, and it's natural products, but it's primarily food and beverage. And I gave out these awards. These are
oh, that's
pink glass
adorable.
trophies shaped like hearts,
Fun.
the Love Your Name Award.
Oh,
And
that's awesome.
thank you. I gave out 10 to names that just grab me. So love at first sight names where I love the name before I even tried the product. And that's magical. If you can have that experience, and my favorite name of the show was a frozen cookie dough named Dopamine, spelled
Oh
like
my God, that right? Like
isn't that
brilliant.
so great? Yeah, it's so great. And like here I am talking about it, right? And that's the type
You
of
can't get
name.
better marketing than that.
Yeah, exactly. So when you have a name that people love, they're going to talk about it. I always say those are the names that people tweet and repeat, right? They're putting it on Instagram. And that's like when you're starting out with a blank slate and you have the opportunity to give yourself a love at first sight name, that's what you should be striving for.
Yeah, absolutely. So what would you recommend? I'm in this boat and I have several clients in this boat where truthfully I have my personal brand and I have my company name. And my personal brand is under my name. And then I have my company. How do you differentiate, or should you even try to differentiate?
Yeah, that one's tricky because if you want to sell your company and your company is like you are the brand, it can be hard. But I
Right.
recently finally started an Instagram account because my clients aren't really on Instagram. But when I went to that big food trade show, Expo West, I knew I had all the food companies are on Instagram. I'm like,
Yes.
okay, I'll start one. Eat My Words names is it? And I'm like, okay, but I am the brand and I'm the one posting all these reels and the interviews and everything with founders of these food companies. So I am Eat My Words. So it's hard sometimes to separate them. But Eat My Words is also bigger than just me. But I think
Yes.
people want to know who is the person, if it is, I'm the founder of the company, the big cheese, I call myself. Yeah, people want to hear from me. But I think it's always good to have a company name as
Yeah.
well. Uh, and because if you ever want to sell your company, it's good that it's under a brand name instead of your own name.
I 100% agree with that. It helps to create a sellable asset. And the other thing I find for a lot of people, especially for consultants and coaches in wellness or in any world where you are the face of the company, having that separation in your own mind that here's a company and me, Erin, is just one more asset that the company owns, it helps you treat your business like a business
Hmm.
and you make different decisions
I like
based
that.
on that, right? So I
Mhm.
have to tell everybody the thing, and I'm going blank, so I don't know if you remember, but the brand that I was confused by as a child. So I grew up with Great Danes. We grew up with big dogs that we used to show, and they used to eat Ukanuba. I don't even know if I'm saying it right because
Yukonuba.
I was gonna say I don't know if I ever knew, but I never understood what in the entire world, why would that be a name of a dog food?
Why? Well,
Why?
so I had to look it up because I never knew how to pronounce it. And when I don't know how to pronounce something, I'll call the company after hours and just listen to how they say it on the
That's a
voicemail.
great idea.
So
I wonder what their voicemail
I
say.
guarantee you, if you Google how do you pronounce and then you type in Yukonuba, there will be, a hundred
Right.
thousand hits of other
And I'm
people.
not going to understand the little hieroglyphics explaining it to me anyway.
Yeah, no, and no one knows how to like make accent marks or
No.
anything on their computer, or Americans don't,
Right.
Europeans do.
Americans don't at all.
Yeah, so Yukonuba, I looked it up and it was a term back in the jazz era that meant the tops or supreme. But Nobody knows that. And this is what I always tell people. You're not going to be there to explain your name to someone.
Yeah.
And I got an email the other day from this guy who said, I'm thinking of naming my company this. He had read my book and asked, what do you think of this? And I'll always give someone my opinion if it's just on like one name. If they'll write a review of my book on
Oh,
Amazon or
nice.
Goodreads,
That's
I'll
a
give
huge
you.
offer, by the way. Like that's a very low ask for a very high value.
Thank you. I agree. I agree. But the name he had, it hadn't it was a Swahili word. No, it wasn't even Swahili. It was a Maasai word from the Maasai warriors, and like nobody knows the Maasai language. I've hung out with a Maasai before, and I know a little Swahili from going to Africa many times, but like no one knows the Maasai language. Like, and no one's gonna. Yeah, it's gonna be meaningless. Your name has to be meaningful to someone. If it's foreign in any way, if it's a foreign word, or if it's just foreign to people, as in I don't know what
I don't know.
Yukonuba means, that's foreign. So that's what I call the curse of knowledge, and that's what the second C in Scratch. The first C stands for copycat. But you need to put yourself in the shoes of your customer, because when something has a curse of knowledge, you know what it means. Maybe your engineers know what it means, or your mom knows what it means, but nobody else knows. And it's
Right.
really important that
Right. The
people
name of your business
understand
should
it.
not be an inside joke. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, and yeah. I mean, business is hard enough. Marketing is hard enough. Creating an audience in this, louder and noisier world is hard enough. Don't, right? Why make it harder on yourself?
Yeah. Now that's what I say. When you're starting out with a blank slate, don't give yourself any disadvantages.
Yeah. Awesome. Absolutely. So if people want to continue this conversation with you or take you up on your offer of a quick opinion on their business, the name they're using for their business in return for a review of the book. By the way, I mean it's fun, it's easy to read, it's very funny, and it's extremely step-by-step useful. So this is an easy ask of people.
Thank you. Thank you.
What's the best way for them to get a hold of you, and how do they find you?
You can find me at eatmywords.com.
Perfect.
You can test your name for free on our website. Just
Love
click
it.
on test a name, or you can go to freenametest.com and then you can follow me on LinkedIn or
And
connect with
now
me
on
on Instagram.
Instagram.
I'm on Instagram at Eat My Words Names. And one thing you can do, so yeah, if you write a review of my book is Hello, My Name is Awesome, How to Create Brand Names That Stick. I think it has a 4.8 average on Amazon, which is and over it has over 500 reviews, which is pretty
Good
exciting. It has
job.
almost
That's
getting close
amazing.
to 600. So what yeah, if you write a review, if you just want me to give you my opinion on one name that you have, I'm happy to do that. A lot of times people hire me for a full-on professional name review. That's where I'm going to jump on a call with you for an hour. We're going to talk about your name. If your name isn't there, I'll tell you why, and then I will make some suggestions. What about this? What about that? If your name is there, then we can use that hour where I can give you marketing ideas. I can help you brainstorm taglines. I'm not even helping you brainstorm taglines. I'm going to brainstorm
I'm
taglines
just
for you.
gonna give
I
you
did
a
this.
really good tagline.
I did this with a woman the other day. I came up with a tagline. She wanted an 800 number. I came up with that. She wanted a job title. Came up with that. So in an hour, I can come up with a lot of different ideas for people.
That's
And
fantastic.
that's a
Well, I
thousand.
hope people
That's that's
take
a
you
thousand
up on that.
dollars.
That's amazing. I hope people take you up on that. We will make sure we'll put all the links right in the show notes so they're able to just click and be with you one click away.
Okay.
Thank you for spending time with me and all your insights. I think this is a piece that makes it's just such a huge opportunity, and it traps people, and it doesn't have to be that way. We have resources. You have resources we didn't even know we had. So thank you so much for spending time with me.
My pleasure. Thank you, Erin.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Ready Yet podcast. I truly enjoy bringing these stories of success and inspiration to you. Please join us in our mission to empower entrepreneurs to be in charge of their businesses and in charge of their lives by sharing this with anyone you know who would benefit from our tactical and motivating advice, leaving us a review, and letting us know if there are any particular topics you would really appreciate hearing about. See you next time.